to Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. The Colbert meltdown has reached epic proportions. There were actual protests outside of his studio last night in New York. Like, people are gathering to chant something like down with Trump, up with Colbert, or like kill Trump, save Colbert, whatever it is. And in his show, Colbert Show, because they're leaving him on the air. Steve, is it through the end of next year? Is it like through the May of 2026? So they've got how many, almost not quite a year left of these, 9 months of these shows. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to happen. They're going to pull the plug, at least if he continues with this nonsense. He brings in all these Hollywood and late night and related stars to try to, I guess, make us cry about his cancellation. And here's how that looked.
Look at those guys. They're having a great time.
Anderson Cooper, Andy Cohen kissing.
Oh, nice.
Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers, complete loser. Can't stand him. Adam Sandler, love him. Shame on you for appearing in this. Stewart and, what's his name, John Oliver. Like a couple of teenage girls in the audience. Overacting. A cartoon version of Trump.
I'm sorry, stop playing. I'm sorry. I just
Lin-Manuel Miranda and
what's going on?
Weird Al.
Hold on, give me a sec. Your song has been canceled.
What? Why?
I don't know. Hold on. It says here this is a purely financial decision.
What does that mean?
I think it means money.
Well, yeah, but what money?
Hold on. It says here that since you started playing that song, the network has lost, and I don't know how this is possible, $40 to $50 million.
He just looks so out of touch, Emily. Like, it's the same thing as Kamala Harris parading out those celebrities to try to save her campaign. It didn't work on Democrats. That's who he's trying to appeal to. It didn't work on Democrats for her, and it doesn't work on his Democrat audience for him. It only makes him look like the elitist, out-of-touch, rich snob that he is.
We were talking about this actually on After Party last night. There's this difference between macro culture
After
and
Party,
microculture.
it's on at 10 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays on YouTube, live with Emily Jashinsky. You should totally tune in. It's super hot. Keep going.
That's right. We're having fun. We're live. And so Colbert is doing this thing where he's like still pretending that he's Johnny Carson, even though what he's doing is for a really niche audience of educated, affluent coastal liberals, the types of people who watch John Oliver and Jon Stewart and really like those weird Trump jokes that he does that are more like uncomfortable than they are funny. And so this is the problem is he's still acting. Part of the reason he sees himself as a martyr and a victim is because he's acting like they canceled Johnny Carson for saying something mean about Ronald Reagan. And that's not what's happening. He's trying to do microculture versus macro monoculture, but he's trying to do it on a macro monoculture budget with a 200-person staff, losing $40 million a year. And I wish I could credit the person who said this because it's so smart, but it was basically his show was basically affirmative action for anti-Trump, like coastal elitism, because it was losing all of that money. And yet CBS had to be careful with it because they don't want to look like they're getting rid of, this political opponent of the president. They don't want to upset all of the other people in the industry who they know are going to jump to Colbert's defense and frame it sympathetically. And Colbert genuinely was funny at a point. That's why he has some like genuinely funny friends like Adam Sandler. But it's the same thing. I'm gonna do this one more time, Megyn. I'm gonna go back to this well one more time. It is J-Lo-esque, right? It's our culture doing the Steve Buscemi meme where he says, "Hello, fellow kids," with the skateboard over his shoulder in perpetuity, because J-Lo was a dancer. She was famous for being her talent was in dance. Her talent was being really hot and a really good dancer. Colbert and Stewart, their talents were being these like young, edgy, anti-establishment comedians. And you can't be a young, edgy, anti-establishment comedian or an incredible dancer when you're not young anymore. And they haven't adapted.
This is why I like being in news, because getting older in news is actually a bonus. It gives you a lot of wisdom from your years of covering the news. It's not a deal breaker. You don't have to be fired. It's not like your vagina looks different, so you can't be on air anymore.
Yes. It's been great for Leslie Stahl.
I love that they're trying to do the same shtick they did 20 years ago, and they're just all getting terrible results. Matt Taibbi was on the first hour, as you know, and in watching one of their shows, they were talking about this, he and Walter Kern, and they revived this clip because this is Colbert. This is the reason Colbert failed. He took a great franchise, The Late Show, great franchise. You know, David Letterman used to be there and absolutely fucking ruined it by segments like this, where he went to Russia, to the Ritz-Carlton presidential suite, where the alleged Trump P-tape from the Steele dossier was said to have happened with the prostitutes, so he could do on-scene reporting. Look at this.
Hello. Join me, won't you? In the bedroom of the presidential suite of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow. The room we've heard so much about, and yet no one has come to check it out. I don't know why. When you're in this room...
You don't?
I don't know how to describe it. It's soaked in history. It just washes over you. I mean, it's not even like it's in the past. You're in history. You're in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying the pee-pee tape supposedly took place on that bed, is what I'm saying. The dossier alleges that President Trump was somewhere in this room. We don't know where he sat. Could have been on this bench down here. Though I doubt it, because that's in what's called the splash zone. You're going to want to wear a poncho. Could have been on the couch over there. But what would that look like? Join us when my investigative journalism continues.
Peep, peep, tape. Peep, peep, tape.
You know when you've imagined
jumping on
something
the
for
bed.
so long, and then when you finally see it, it just doesn't match what you pictured in your head? That's not this feeling at all.
It's amazing to me, Emily, how every single one of those laughs was laugh track because he wasn't funny. The whole thing wasn't funny. And by the way, even his side has now had to admit the Steele tape has been totally discredited and it was all a lie. That's how you fail in television.
Yeah. Well, you know what would have been funny is if that entire shtick, well, first of all, if the jokes were funny, but if the entire shtick was satirizing the political establishment cooking up a conspiracy hoax and making fun of this idea that there was a dossier that had legitimate, credible information because Christopher Steele stitched it together from all of these different sources, was really one primary source, subsource, all of that. The idea that this suggested that Donald Trump really credibly had colluded with the Russian government, making fun of the CIA and the FBI and the Obama administration and the Clinton campaign for cooking up such a hilarious hoax, that would have been funny. And by the way, that's exactly what Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart were standing up against, the excesses of the intelligence community during the Bush administration. And it reminds me, one person who has adapted really well, I was thinking about this while you were talking to Matt, is the great Matt Taibbi, because he mentioned he'd been on Colbert's show and he used to like Colbert. And I'm like, you know what? Taibbi is one of the people who was anti-establishment when those guys were anti-establishment. And Taibbi has remained consistent and he has adapted instead of just hook, line, and sinker buying what the intelligence community is selling because they happen to be on your sort of ideological side at any given moment. That's actually
Glenn Greenwald,
edgy, and that's right, Glenn. Yep, that's actually edgy. That's why they're actually interesting, compelling people. And Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart look so hollowed out and sad and are just going back to these same shticks over and over again for like 10 years now in a way that is only funny to like 5% of the country that is still reliving the moral energy they had in 2007 because they were laughing at Jon Stewart for taking down the Bush administration. And it's not the same anymore. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I've been on Colbert's show multiple times. I've been on Kimmel's show. I've been on Fallon's show. I've been on Seth Meyers' show. I've been on all of them. I was on Jay Leno, all of them. And I can affirmatively tell you that Stephen Colbert is not funny. He's not funny behind the scenes. He's not funny on camera. And the only reason he really wanted me is because back when I went on, they would occasionally book journalists. Just ask Brian Williams. It was his downfall.
That's right.
It's because all of them would occasionally do like news. But it would be like a smattering. You know, we would be like a sprinkle on top of the cake, which the cake was always real celebrities, like actual Hollywood A-listers who would go and be the first two acts. And then you'd come on as a news person, like as the C team, which is fine. You're a news person. You're not expecting to be the lead act. But they completely lost their mission. And we talked about this when Colbert got canceled last week and the news broke. His lead guest the night he got canceled was Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff. Yeah. I got to read you part of what Charles C.W. Cook wrote in National Review about Colbert because it's so good. He writes, since the news was promulgated, entertainment analysts have been busy looking for the murder weapon. Some have suggested it was Trump. Others have pointed to political climate, the state of the TV market, the economics of producing a spectacle in contemporary New York. My choice is less complex. The executioner was Stephen Colbert. As the host of The Late Show, Stephen Colbert was annoying in a direct and palpable sense. He hectored, he sneered, he gatekept for a narrow, pious worldview. And above all else, he sacrificed jocosity, meaning being funny, for ideology, a trade that never, ever pays. Under Colbert's inadequate leadership, the program came to resemble the sort of bedeviled mutt that one might expect if one were to instruct artificial intelligence to produce a chat show, having trained it solely on old episodes of The View. Not only did the product fail to look like America, its architects neither knew what America looked like nor wanted to know. It was insular, smug, and self-serious, and worst of all, it routinely committed the only mortal sin in show business. It was boring. Last but not least, most of this was directly Colbert's fault. The rest was indirectly his fault. Many of the postmortems have noted correctly that Colbert was obsessed with a particular strand of American politics, and that in addition to giving the show a dull, Manichean tone, this obsession led him to offer up a surfeit, that means excessive amount, of left-leaning politicians as his guests. Right on. What has received less attention is that his non-political invitees were also habitually dreary. Why? Because in the environment that the Stephen Colberts of the world have created, they had no choice but to be so. It is indeed true, he writes, that the death of the movie star system has made late shows more difficult to stage. But in the grand scheme of things, this is a red herring. A media universe that was engineered by the likes of Stephen Colbert was always destined to be a media universe in which interesting people sedulously, that means constantly, avoided saying anything of consequence, and in which those who tried to say compelling things were swiftly cut off at the pass. Ultimately, the problem was of demand, not of supply. And he goes on from there. It's a great piece. Charles is so smart with his fancy words. But I get it. I think we get it. And he's not wrong. I'll give you the last word, Emily.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how Charlie had time to watch so much Colbert when he was nose deep in his thesaurus, apparently, at those hours. But he's right. I mean, it was just for a tiny slice of the public, and it was operating on a budget that couldn't possibly sustain that. And it took, I think a big corporation like Paramount, CBS, a long time to reconcile with the death of monoculture. They can't do it anymore, and they're not. It doesn't make Colbert a martyr in any way, but we can expect him to be.
They're all dinosaurs. They're all getting canceled. Trump actually just posted on Truth Social that he hears Jimmy Kimmel's going to be canceled next. That could be. Trump actually does have very good sources in television across the board. So he could be right. Kimmel's numbers are also terrible. Fallon's literally in the bottom of the barrel. You can't even see Fallon. He's so far behind the other two, and the other two are already losers. So they're not going to be around. In 5 years, none of them will be around. They're too expensive for too little return. The day of the late night talk show host, and the late night talk show has passed. It had its heyday. Carson, Leno too was great. Letterman, awesome. It's over. Accept it, move on, cut your losses. CBS was the first. It won't be the last. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.